Good morning, boys and girls, and all of God's children. Welcome to the Church School Neighborhood. I'm Sister Angie Spears, the excited Church School Superintendent. What a wonderful, wonderful lesson we have for you today. We have just begun a brand new quarter, and the theme for our new spring quarter is Social Teachings of the Church. And we are going to start our Unit 1, which will be all of our lessons in the month of March. And the theme for the unit is caring for our neighbors. Caring for our neighbors. Well, today's lesson is titled Recognizing Our Debt to Others, and it comes from Mark chapter 12 and James chapter 2. And our very special word for today is actually a phrase, and that phrase is love your neighbor. Love your neighbor. Throughout the Bible, we know that Jesus tells us how important it is for us to love our neighbors. And who is our neighbor? It's not just the person that lives right next door to us. Everyone is our neighbor. The person that lives on the next street, the person who lives in the other community, the person who lives in the state that's next to yours. It's the person who lives across the ocean. We are all neighbors, and most of all, we're all children of God. Well, in today's lesson, Jesus is speaking to the scribes, and often when he speaks to scribes, they are challenging Jesus. They're trying to trick him. But today's lesson, the scribe really does understand. He understands the importance of loving our neighbor. So let's take a look at the memory verse, and then it is Buttercup was the very best example that he certainly understands. So we're going to look at the memory verse, but we will come back to it. In the memory verse, the scribe is talking to Jesus, and he is repeating what he knows is correct. He asks Jesus what the most important commandment is, and then he says, the scribe, I know the most important one. It is to love God with all of your heart and with all of your understanding, and with all of your strength, and to love one's neighbor as oneself. This is much more important than all the whole burnt offerings and sacrifices. This is more loving our neighbor, loving others is more important than anything else that you could do for God. Wonderful, wonderful. Buttercup, what is the example that you wanted to share with us regarding loving your neighbor? Well, Buttercup says that as he was planning for his birthday party, the Sunday school teacher overheard Buttercup and knew how excited he was. Am I right, Buttercup? Buttercup had a birthday a few weeks ago. Well, as he was planning for this party, the teacher said, "Who's invited to the party, Buttercup?" And Buttercup said, "Everybody in Sunday school." And he passed out invitations. And she said, "Buttercup, are the children from your class coming? Are your neighbors coming?" And he said, "Most of them are coming." And she says, "What do you mean most?" And what did you say, Buttercup? There are 3 little guys who live down the street. They moved in not that long ago. They moved in, I think, in June. And they're very much to themselves. It's 3 brothers, and their names are Andy, Anthony, and Alan. And they really do stay to themselves. Buttercup says they're not very friendly. They don't really say hello to him. He doesn't say hello to them. So he's not inviting them to his party. And what did your teacher say? The teacher said, "Buttercup, you're in Sunday school, and we know how important it is to love everyone. And Jesus says to love everyone as you love yourself. And you wouldn't like it if people invited other people to their party and they left you out, would you?" And what did you say, Buttercup? No, you wouldn't. Well, Buttercup went to his mom and dad and said, "Can I have 3 more invitations?" And he gave it to the 3 little guys. And guess what? Now these little guys never really talk to Buttercup. They don't talk to him in school. They don't talk to him on the bus. The very next day, after Buttercup gave them the invitation, Andy says, "Hi, Buttercup," when he gets on the bus. Another day it was raining. And so when they get off of the bus, they still have to walk down the street to their houses. And Andy had an umbrella, he and his brothers. And they said, "Would you and Daisy like to come and squeeze under the umbrella so you don't get wet?" So all it took was that one little opening, that one little being nice by Buttercup. And he found out that Andy and Anthony and Alan could be very, very nice. Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you for sharing that story with us, Buttercup. And again, God wants us to be nice to all of our neighbors, not just some. So let's go to our memory verse again. And again, it's coming from Mark 12, verse 33. And again, our title for today's lesson is Recognizing Our Debt to Others. And it comes from Mark 12 and James 2. And our memory verse comes from Mark 12. We've cut it down just a little bit. Here we go. The scribe said to Jesus, "To love God with all of your heart and to love one's neighbor as oneself." The scribe understood, right? The scribe said to Jesus, to love God with all your heart and to love one's neighbor as oneself. And Jesus was very pleased because that was indeed the most important part of the commandments. That is the most important part. Can you fill that in when some of the words are missing? Let's see. The scribe said to Jesus to love God with all your heart and to love one's neighbor as oneself. Excellent, excellent, wonderful job. We know that you're going to enjoy this lesson when you are in class, and I hope, just like Buttercup, that you will think of others that maybe you could be friendlier to, somebody that you could be nicer to. And I think you're going to be surprised that many people, when you start being nice to them, they're going to be nice to you back. That's certainly what I hope, and it's certainly what God wants. We trust that you will join us on next week. Next week, our lesson is titled, Keeping Fit for the Sake of Others, and our lesson will come from Daniel chapter 1 and 1 Timothy chapter 4. Until then, God bless you. Have a blessed week. Bye-bye.